Hey babes, Radam Ridwan here, ready to take over the Sassify Zine Instagram. I'll be answering some questions, talking about my Lockdown Lookbook, and having some fun along the way. You'll be able to watch my interview on the Sassify Zine website after I'm done. My queer journey. What a big question. I think that, like everyone's, it's a unique journey and it's one that is ever progressing. I don't think there is an arc to your queerness that is ever finished. I'm always discovering things about myself every single day. I kind of always knew that I was a bit different than everyone else growing up. I was quite lucky in the sense that I never shamed myself on it. I always had that attitude of it is society that's wrong and not me. And so, although I was definitely closeted in certain times in my life, I never pushed it back in. I always let it flourish, and I'm thankful that I had that in me because it takes a long time for a lot of people to reach that point. I grew up in a small town in Australia where I didn't know any queer or gay or trans people, and so it took me kind of moving away from this little town to really discover so many more queer parts of myself. And yeah, I found myself in London, and there's an amazing community here of trans people and people of colour in particular who I've learnt so much from and will continue to learn from. Being queer in the world is definitely a difficult thing, and every day I try to unlearn something about how society has taught me to hate myself in so many ways. And I just hope that for the future we can allow queer people and all people to discover themselves at their own pace and in their own ways. I identify as transgender non-binary, and I just want to preface this by saying that trans people do not owe an explanation of their transness to anyone. Cis people never have to say how and why they came to believe of themselves as cis, and so trans people owe nothing to anyone in that way either. I discuss these kinds of topics because I really want to help other people explore their gender identity without fear. And so I hope I can do that through talking about my own experiences. I firmly believe that gender identity can manifest in different ways for every single person, but for me, being non-binary just means that I don't identify with being a male or a female. It doesn't mean I fit anywhere neatly on the middle, and the way that gender manifests through me is very different on every single day. I go by they, them, their pronouns, and more than anything, I just want there to be no rule book, no template for how anyone expresses their gender, whatever that may be. Having strict rules about how you're supposed to behave and act and look, depending on what your gender is restrictive and helps nobody. So this is not just for non-binary people, it's not just for me, it's for society as a whole to start to break down those rules. What a wild fucking time it's been. Um, I can't stress enough that there is no right or wrong way to emotionally deal with a global pandemic, and the way the world has changed in this time. So many people have lost their jobs and are affected health-wise by this. And so there's nothing that anyone should be doing during this time except for taking care of themselves and the people around them. But something that I have found really cathartic was to create my Lockdown Lookbook, which is a collection of 50 looks that I did over 50 days of lockdown. Every day I went and looked in my wardrobe and my housemate's wardrobe, and I put together a look which I think I felt that day. It was really something spontaneous that I woke up and thought I'd put together in that day. I put makeup on to match the look and had accessories and everything to go with it, and I did it for 50 days straight. In this time of crisis and isolation, I've seen so much ingenuity of queer artists around the world who are continuing to stretch their limbs and create art and perform in many different forms within this lockdown. And it really inspired me to do something myself with it. The Lockdown Lookbook really started out of necessity for me to continue to create something within a time of stifled movement and to really express myself on a continual basis, to have some sort of creative routine that I could create for myself. It really just started as an individual thing, and then every day it kind of became more and more. Sometimes it was stressful. I describe it as kind of turning into a monster that required me to create a look every day. It was very difficult some days, but I feel so kind of calmed by it as well in the same way. I had people in my DM saying they wanted a lookbook calendar, they wanted a lookbook printout, and then I just thought I would combine my other talents, which are writing and kind of affirmation, and put it into a coffee table book. And you can get that coffee table book now at my website, radamridwan.com/shop, and you can hopefully have it to fill a little corner of your home. I believe that fashion has the power to trap us, and it has the power to free us from the chains that are created by society, which tell us that we can only look, we can only dress, we can only cover our bodies, which are our own, in a certain type of fabric, in a certain color. And by freeing ourselves from this and wearing whatever the fuck we want, we can help other people with this and help each other become free within a society which limits us in so many ways. There are so many people that have inspired me throughout my life to feel strong enough to ignore the haters and just wear what I like to wear and look beautiful while doing it. And so I hope that through my daily looks and just being able to stunt in public, it inspires that person to just see me and say that they can do the same thing too, and that they can be as powerful as they want to be. It doesn't matter what people say about you. Growing up, I never saw anyone that looked like me in the media or what I wanted to look like in the media, so I didn't know it was possible. And although representation is only part of the picture, I just think that if we saw more people, more variety of people doing something more freely on a really wide scale, then the next generation can see that and know that they can be that person too. And it is as simple as more people feeling free enough to go out and dress to the shops like they want to. And I think that I managed to break through that cycle without having that influence per se. But I hope that by seeing more people like me out, that they will be able to feel that and do that themselves too. I think it's particularly important for queer people of colour to see that we can succeed. Often there's this double or triple unlearning that we have to do in our lives. We've been told it's wrong that we love someone of the same sex perhaps, and wrong for having a gender identity that goes against the norm. And then we have racism, which is so inbuilt in society. On top of that, we often do this one unlearning and then realize that the LGBTQ community doesn't accept people of colour in the same way that it does white people. So I think that this is particularly important for us to get out there and show our shit and tell everyone, every other young queer person of colour, that they can do it too. I am inspired by anyone who's challenging traditional conceptions or misconceptions of gender, sexuality, race and ethnicity, ability, and basically any systemic component which is set up so that some people succeed and other people fail. a billion people alive and people who have lived before me have inspired me to keep on living and thriving and creating and being beautiful. But I'm going to name just a few of them that have inspired me recently in this weird TikTok style thing. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da, the Lockdown Lookbook ended up as a testament to getting the fuck out of bed when there's nothing to get up for, to showing off at just myself, and the power of fashion in the creation and recreation and recreation of the self. This has been a hard choice, but I'm going to tell you my top 3 favorite looks from the Lockdown Lookbook. Doo-doo-doo, drum roll. So day 30, honestly, I was getting a bit tired. It's 30 days straight, 29 days straight of putting a look on every day. And then I really didn't want to do something. So I kind of put together a challenge for my housemate at basic.kitsch and said, let's create something. And so instead of thinking of it as a look, we kind of made it into art and said, let's do a Project Runway design challenge out of garbage bags. So went down to the store, got some yellow and black ones, inspired by the Gaga Paparazzi palette, and then created this whole thing from scratch, and I fucking love it. I have to talk about the first one because it started it all. We wouldn't be here without it. So I kind of really love a monochromatic look, as you probably can see from all of the pictures. But this one I really loved putting together. That kind of vinyl skirt with the cloud pattern and the kind of off hat is very me in the sunshine, and kind of how it turned out really kept me going throughout the whole experience, being like, I can put that together in a day and have it photographed by my housemate and look that good. Except, fun fact, my mum's comment on Facebook was, like it, but not so much the mismatched level of socks on it. And then finally, my favorite look is obviously the last one. This I call Ode to My Bedroom Floor, which is extremely messy at the moment after doing all these looks and not putting them back in the closet. It was really fun putting everything out together and kind of it being a mess and not knowing how it was going to look, and just kind of feeling what went where and kind of using a bag as an earring and kind of being kind of wild and messy with it. And I really like how the pictures turned out and getting all of the other looks into one final look, and I really hope you enjoy it. So that's all from me, Radam Ridwan, on the Sassify, Zine, TAKEOVER. You can follow me on all reputable social media platforms at Radam Ridwan. And I love you all and have a splendid, gorgeous day. What made me happy today was getting up, putting my makeup on, going to the coffee shop, and the person that gave me my coffee saying that they loved my makeup. The simple but beautiful power of compliment